Hey everyone, welcome back to Fifth Bridge Sports. So we're doing another fantasy waiver targets video. Today is after week 3, so we'll get started.
All right, so here's a breakdown of the number of games that each team will be playing this week. For the most part, each team has a good amount of games. Some teams to watch are the Wizards and the Magic. They've both got 2 games this week, so if you've got, if you got players on there, that's unfortunate. Good luck. So we're gonna start off with players rostered in under 60% of leagues, and we're gonna start off with Deandre Hunter. He's been all over the place recently. However, he's getting about 29 minutes a game, and he is a starter. So he has potential this week. He's also playing 4 games, so he's worth a look. After him, we've got Derrick Rose. I'm pretty sure everyone watching this podcast knows who he is, what he can do on any given night. I'm sure you're also aware his coach isn't exactly going to limit minutes for him. Derrick Rose has 3 games this week. The game to watch, however, is tomorrow because it is a back-to-back. So if he is playing in tomorrow's game, he's a decent pickup. If not, probably avoid Derrick Rose. Josh Hart has recently moved up into the starting lineup due to Ingram and Zion being injured. He's got 4 games this week, so that's definitely nice. And even if he ends up coming off the bench, he's still a guy that puts up stats in every category.
So next we have Darius Baisley. He was a guy who's on our first version of this as well. So he's rostered in 32% of leagues. So recently we've seen him put up stats of 11.1 points, 6.3 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 0.9 steals, and a block. So he's kind of filling it up all over the board. So I think he's a guy who definitely you should be considering looking at depending what league you're in. Next we have Davion Mitchell. So he's a rookie guard for the Sacramento Kings. He's coming off the bench. So the Kings do have a pretty loaded guard rotation right now. De'Aaron Fox, Halliburton, Buddy Hield. With that, Davion Mitchell has been performing quite well recently. He has 3 games for this upcoming week. So yeah, I think he's one of those guys who we won't see his role be able to climb up too much in the immediate future, but it does seem like he's kind of a staple in the rotation and should be kind of getting those consistent minutes with where he's at right now. 10.6 points, 2.2 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 0.7 steals, 0.2 blocks. I think he's a guy who's worth having on your radar. Definitely someone I'd be looking at. Next, we have Royce O'neill, rostered in only 29% of leagues. Starting for the Utah Jazz, been putting up above 30 minutes per game in the recent stretch here. 3 games this week as well. His role seems pretty solidified at this point in time. Should consider continue to be starting for the next few games, or at least as the season goes here as well. Stats have been decent too. 6.7 points, 2.2 assists, 4.6 rebounds, 2 steals, 0.6 blocks there as well. So yeah, he's been doing good. Definitely a guy I would consider picking up here too. So next we have Thomas Bryant. So he's a guy who's currently only rostered in 18% of leagues. And a large part of the reason why is he had torn his ACL last season. So it's getting to the point where his return from injury is kind of going to be on the horizon. Haven't had too much news of how the Wizards are going to approach that situation. Maybe we'll see something where it takes a little bit of time before he gets onto the court still. But regardless of the situation, I think once he is back and healthy and playing on the court, he's a guy to me who, if you have an open spot on your IR, worth stashing there, seeing how he performs when he comes back. And he could be a guy who makes a difference for you as we get later into the fantasy season.
Yeah, for sure. Well, definitely hoping our boy Thomas here makes a full recovery.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now we're going to list off some players that are rostered in under 15% of leagues here. So we're starting off with Blake Griffin, who's been putting up some solid stats here, as you can see. 6.1 points, 1.5 assists, 5.1 boards, and about 0.5 steals, 0.4 blocks. And his role has been increasing. He's been getting about 22 minutes per game, and he's just kind of putting up stats across the board here. KCP, he's rostered in 14% of leagues. He's a player that you kind of know what you're going to get with him. You're going to get like a lot of 3-point shooting. You're going to get decent points. And he'll give you some steals. Now, the name to watch this week, at least according to me, would be Gary Payton. Rostered in 9% of leagues. He has been, this week, averaging 30 fantasy points, roughly. And his role has been increasing, like, as the season has gone on. He's currently coming off the bench, and he's just being a total animal off the bench. He's playing in 4 games this week, and he's a player I'm definitely watching to personally add on my team.
Yeah, Gary Payton definitely has just really jumped up recently, and one of those guys who's put himself on the radar for fantasy basketball.
Yeah, just
Next,
shocked everybody.
Oh, totally. Yeah, out of nowhere, really. Next, we have Derrick Jones Jr. So rostered in 5% of leagues. So with Patrick Williams unfortunately going down to injury, Derrick Jones Jr. has kind of had that opportunity, and he's seen his minutes increase in recent games. In the last 4 games, he's played about 20 minutes per game. He's been having some decent nights. Putting up around 5.8 points, 2.4 rebounds, some good defensive stats to accompany that there as well. So he does play 4 games this week as well. So if you are in a deeper league and he is someone who's available, he might be worth picking up and seeing how he does. And if he continues to have that role, someone who's going to be consistent, get you some of those extra points to help give you that additional push there. Next, we have Drew Eubanks. So he's seen an increased role in the last little bit here as Jakob Poeltl has gone on to the COVID protocol. So as long as Poeltl is going to be on that COVID protocol, Drew Eubanks definitely is looking interesting for fantasy. I think he is kind of a guy who you'd be looking at as a short-term ad, and once Poeltl does eventually come back from that COVID protocol, he's a guy who I think we'll see his production kind of drop off a little bit again. But for the short term here, he does play 3 games this week, and if Poeltl's on that COVID protocol, he might be a guy who's able to put up some surprising games, so definitely someone I'd be watching out for. We're also keeping Herbert Jones on here from last week as well. So unfortunately, he did have a concussion, and then he's had a bit of a ankle thing that's kept him out questionable for now as well. So he's currently listed as questionable for Monday night's matchup. But if he does come back, he was in the starting lineup before that and had put up some really impressive games and had even had some 30-point fantasy nights. So I think he's a guy I'm definitely continuing to watch for fantasy basketball. And with him being only rostered in 1% of leagues, I think he's definitely someone to keep your eye on. And yeah, we'll see how he does in this upcoming week. I think it'll be kind of a big determiner for where he'll sit for fantasy basketball. But yeah, that's the end of our list for this week. Definitely let us know in the comments down below if you have any questions about different guys in your leagues. And feel free to comment down below if there's anyone else who you think would be a great waiver pickup for everyone else.
Yeah, let us know if you agree, if you disagree. Be detailed, be vague, doesn't matter. We'll appreciate it.
Absolutely. But yeah, thank you for watching, everyone. We'll see you in our next video here.